Hello, everybody. It's 3:48 a.m. Central Time on the 23rd of November, 2022. It's Wednesday morning here in the United States, and I hope you're doing well. We are here on the Earthquake 3D live stream, and I've got an early morning update here for you. We're going to be talking about seismic events that have struck across the planet, and if you're not aware, we do have some pretty large activity that's taken place in the past few days. And a few of the areas where we issued warnings have been struck. So let's get a display capture turned on and show you the large earthquake that struck yesterday right here, right at the U.S. border, about 120, 130 miles south of the U.S. border with California and Mexico. And it's 6.2 earthquake, pretty big earthquake. Now, I did measurements on this against the area where I warned, and I'll take you over to my community page and show you. We'll also go over on Google Earth and take a quick look and just scroll. But right through here, you can see it, 430 miles from Yuba Hibi craters and 230 miles outside of my warned area. So this is most likely the earthquake we're looking for when it comes to looking for a 6.2 earthquake, a low-end 6 to come in at the California-Nevada border. If we get a low-end 6 coming in just south of the California border, again, that's most likely the earthquake we're looking for. And I'm 200-something miles outside of my warned area. Now, that is the first event of the day. Now, on the other side of the planet, not the antipode, but the opposite side of the planet, we have a 6.1 to 6.2 earthquake that struck in Turkey, 130 miles east of Istanbul, 230 miles east of my warned area at Greece Aegean Sea. Now, I warned for this size magnitude as well. And again, this most likely is the earthquake we're looking for. I did measurements on it, so forth. You guys can come over and check that out. Here's where our warned area was. And we go over to our hit area next to Istanbul. Both earthquakes caused damage in both areas. No fatalities reported as far as I know, but injuries are reported out of Turkey. Now, the spot in Turkey, let's just go over and take a quick look. It's called Duzce, D-U-Z-C-E, and again, that's Duzce, and it's just east of Istanbul, right over here. Now, again, when you get out here, here's the town of Duzce, and it struck somewhere just west, somewhere right over in here, and again, when we have stone stack structures, cinder block structures, I don't know if you've seen what the buildings are like in Turkey, but we can go in on a street level at a residential guaranteed felt throughout the area, and this is where, if you're seeing damage, this is where a lot of the damage is being reported. Look at the construction, okay? So we have, again, concrete and cinder block stone stack. And when I say cinder block stone stack, I'm not kidding. Look at the base of that, and it's stuccoed on the outside. You have newer construction like this, but then look, 1, 2, 3, 4 stories high cinder block stone stack. And when I say cinder block, it's really like this square type stone that is, I mean, you could call them blocks, but when you get earthquakes like this, it can cause some serious damage. So that's why, again, the building code is different. The types of buildings are different than, like, for instance, here in the United States. So people will have to run outside and get away from the buildings when something this size happens. As opposed to in the U.S. or in Europe, maybe you might just shelter in place and take cover underneath a table or desk. So it's two significant sized earthquakes, both about 100, maybe 200 miles outside of my warned area. We'll check them both off the list. Those are the earthquakes we're looking for most likely. And that goes back to our other big activity that happened over here in the West Pacific a day ago. We had a 7.0 earthquake here, right in the Solomon Islands, and video on that has come out of significant damage on the islands there. Apparently it is populated. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We are seeing a big increase in the number of large earthquakes suddenly, all of a sudden. I mean, we're dealing with 6s and 7s instead of 4s and 5s. That's a definite increase. Now, I have warnings going for other locations, such as Japan, Alaska, United States. We'll get into that in a moment. I do want to talk about what happened down here in Australia. So you see this 4.5, I'll mark it in blue. We'll zoom in on it. In Northwest Australia, struck a day and a half ago on the 21st. It's right by our red arrow. When that hit, I told my Australian viewers to watch for a few things. New push to come down towards Perth, another push to come down towards Melbourne, Adelaide, and then another push to get all the way down towards the Dutch Sins logo. Well, so far, 4.0 came rolling in just the past few hours down in southwest Australia, and this is ironically out by that spot where that weird doomsday cult was doing their operations, and they built their Tesla earthquake machine. You guys remember this? I don't know if you know this, but you guys can go look it up. There was a cult that was down here, some kind of, I don't remember what cult it was, but it was some kind of Asian cult. Took up residence down here in southwest central Australia. And what do we have over here? We have a big pit mine. But let's go look at the depth on the earthquake here. 5 kilometers? Yeah, they're not down 5 kilometers down in this pit mine. Man-made faulting. But just out here, I don't know exactly where it was. But I'm pretty certain it was somewhere right out in here. And they talk about it in a documentary about the cult. And they have a geologist who was talking about their earthquake machine that they built. The Tesla earthquake machine. I know. You don't have to believe me on it. This is a documentary I watched, and the geologist and everything. So you guys could go look it up. Somewhere out here, there was a cult that had the Tesla earthquake machine. Now they got this big quarry right here. I'm just wondering what they're doing mining on. Let's just zoom in and see. So it is a giant open pit mine, but it's not going down 5 kilometers, that's for sure. I wonder if we have place names or anything like that. It will tell us what this is. Okay, here we go. Nickel. Wow, okay, nickel. Wow, you don't normally see big nickel mines everywhere. So there we go, big nickel mine. Well, nickel, as we know, is coming up from the depths of the earth, but that is another story entirely for what this is. Don't want to get into that now. By the way, I made a huge discovery in regards to these quote-unquote star forts that I've been finding, and they are confirmed star forts. They are actually made structures, military bases in the middle of each tip of each star fort, and I'll show that in a separate video. But I found 8 locations that are military bases, and the Facebook data center is in one. Okay, so let's go. Yeah, Facebook data center is built in the middle of it. Now, let's go over to Europe and just quickly talk about this. Now that a 6 has struck here in Turkey, it's going to be flowing. The flow is already going across Europe, but we can certainly expect Italy to get our new 5 up here where all the rings are overlapping in North Italy in the next few days. The European agency deleted the deep earthquake from below Switzerland. In case you're not aware, the 750-kilometer deep earthquake disappeared off the feeds. I made a post on that, and some interesting things happened after I showed the public that earthquake was deleted. I was publicly attacked. It was very odd. If you saw it, you could probably press 1 in the chat room when I put out the notice that they deleted it. People came over and said that I must have made up that earthquake. No, I didn't make up the earthquake. The European agency did delete the 750-kilometer deep earthquake below Switzerland. I don't know what to make of it. I didn't issue a forecast based on it. However, I have a warning going to North Italy where all these rings are overlapping for a new 5. So keep watch there. New 2.6 is just struck there as I'm talking. When did that hit? Hold on. This struck at 9:28 UTC, 30 minutes ago. Okay, all right. So North Italy is going to be getting hit. I struck out in Scotland this past week. Instead, the expected activity went right out to the North Mid-Atlantic Ridge. I don't even know if we can still see it. It might not be on the feed anymore. Yeah. Okay, so missed out on Scotland. Meanwhile, every other location up and down the Mid-Atlantic Ridge moving as expected. So 5.2, 4.8 on both sides of the Azores. Canary Islands moving. We go back across over to our big activity. Let me go show you on the USGS plate boundary map what is moving in Europe, and this should make a little bit more sense to everybody in the picture. So we're moving from the T intersection out here at the Azores. I just showed it to you. A line of earthquakes all the way back over to our big one. And really, you need to look at it from the big one out to where the 5.2 is. So the whole area from Turkey all the way out to the letter X at the Azores is shifting. From the T intersection back over to the big quake. And in between it, I have a new warning going right in the middle, going right up into Central Europe for a new 5. Just about a magnitude less than here in Turkey, and about the same size as what's striking out at the letter T intersection that struck last night, the 5.2. And we can get all the other smaller earthquakes out of there, and you should be able to even see it It's like a two-arm scale where in the middle we go up through Italy and back down through Spain. And I'm warning right there in the middle in between the two. It doesn't look like the proportional middle, like a two-arm scale perfectly balanced out. We have to go around the bends of the plate, and then you understand that this is somewhat the middle point between this 6 and this 5. We have a straight line that comes over across Gibraltar, straight line that goes over across North Africa, and then we make the bend up through the plate and back down into Turkey. So again, we got quakes out here, quakes over here, and we go around the bends of the plate, up and over. This is the halfway point between the two areas that are moving if we go around. Anyway, that's where I'm looking. We look at the halfway points between the current sets of quakes. So, a lot is going on. Multiple 6s, 7s, deep earthquakes, and United States is moving. Let's go up here and look in the northwest. So, Central Aleutian Island chain got struck by Bogoslav volcano, and we moved with the same-sized earthquake over to the west, over at Kamchatka. Now, two things should happen. One, a flow should go down and into Hawaii. We're on the last day of the watch for Hawaii, literally the last 24 hours of the watch. I could strike out in Hawaii. It would be one of the first times I've struck out in Hawaii in a long time, but last day, we'll wait and see. We're looking for an upper 5 or somewhere in the noteworthy 5 range to come rolling in. It could go as high as 6 in Hawaii. But last day, nothing's happened. I could be wrong completely, in which case I'll have to reassess everything. But don't count your chickens before they hatch, guys. So we'll go back up here, up to the north, up into Alaska. All kinds of people contacted me last night. Well, before I went to bed this morning, I should say. Contacted me about the 4.1 striking in Anchorage, and they felt it all the way across the city. That 4.1. Now, look over to the east. Check it out. Edge of the Craton. But wait. Hold on. Let's go over and take a look at the USGS website. I just want to go see. Because this just struck in the last day, last 24 hours. Do you notice anything missing out of Canada? That's right. The USGS is not reporting this earthquake, guys. Now, you might say to me, Dutch, USGS doesn't report anything under 4.5 internationally. And I'd say, oh, really, Jeeves? Oh, really, Mr. Belvedere? What do you call this? Really, Mr. Know-It-All or Miss Know-It-All? USGS doesn't cover under 4.5 internationally, do they? Well, I'm looking at a 4.1 right here down in the middle of Bumble, you-know-where, Chile. But why aren't we carrying this 4.1 up here and right on the U.S. border, just north of the United States, up in Great Canada? Grand old Canada. Let's go pull the coordinates and go show you maybe what might be playing in to them not showing us the earthquake on the edge of the Craton. Why would they not show us a 4.1 on the edge of the Craton right next to the United States, but show us a 4.1 down in the middle of nowhere, down in Chile, where it doesn't really matter much? Well, wait till you see what's here. What are all those square pads in the ground, you might ask me? Let me zoom in and show you. See all these tanks and these pipelines? This is an oil and gas pumping operation. Fracking. Wastewater disposal. Pumping nasties down in the ground, break ground apart, get the oil and gas out. They'll do it to old oil wells and new wells. Here's a, a condensing station or something? Compressing station, where they'll put the gas and oil into pipeline and ship it off. Look how big the pumping operation is here, man. It is massive. Yo, I'm not against oil and gas at all. However, the earthquakes that strike on the edge of the Craton need to be paid attention to when they're striking next to the oil pumping operations on the edge of the Craton. And we get a 4.1 up in Alaska first on the edge of the Craton. Then we get a 4.1 coming down through Alberta, Canada. Next stop is United States, edge of the Craton. So it's troubling when I see the USGS omitting earthquakes right on our border, but they're covering earthquakes, 4.1, a world away. And the people who are USGS supporters, subscribers, viewers, whatever you want to call them, I'm now treating USGS almost like a YouTube channel that's getting ready to implode. Because their viewers and subscribers are ignorant on what's going on, and they're doing their best to keep them ignorant. They're trying to stop their viewers, stop their subscribers from seeing earthquakes, for instance, 4.1 in Alaska, they'll show, but then they'll omit the 4.1 here in Canada, and then they'll report the 4, or they'll change the 4.1 that strikes down here on the edge of the craton to a 3 point something. Deliberately, so that their people don't see a progression of earthquakes going from Alaska down to the United States. They can't have their people seeing that because they told their people it can't happen. I came along and told their people it can, and they tried to get me arrested and shut down. And I have to keep reminding everybody about that because we keep getting stuff like this happening where I would consider it to be fraudulent to not report when they're maintaining a position that is basically requiring persecution of me. They're trying to say there is no progression. I'm showing a progression, and they're deliberately omitting it. Now let's go up to the north and just take a look at this 4.1, because here we have the USGS reporting a 4.1 in the Beaufort Sea, which technically is not U.S. waters or Canadian waters. So it troubles me to see them omit 4.1s down on the craton when it's going to show all of them an incoming flow that comes in on the edge of the craton, which is one of my biggest discoveries, that there's a flow of earthquakes that goes across edges of plates and cratons in a certain path and trajectory. So I would say that their viewers and subscribers on the USGS are being kept in ignorance on purpose. By them, by their own people. How else do you want to explain it? You can't tell me that it's chance when it keeps happening over and over and over again. Chance ceases to be chance when it happens all the time. So now let's go down and look at the earthquakes over the last 48 hours, going down through Texas, back over to the New Madrid seismic zone, down through Alabama, and up into Maine. So what's going on down in Alabama? Sorry, I didn't mean to call you Bambi. Come on, guys. I'm from Missouri. We're from Missouri. Let's go take a look. I already know what's down here. Sylacauga, the spot where the giant harp ring happened. How I got my start on YouTube with harp rings. A giant radar pulse appeared from over here, south of the city. And I documented it and told everybody to watch out for a giant tornado to form. And what happened? A giant tornado formed and hit right there, right through here, Childersburg, Sylacauga. And it's captured in video, the tornado and my warning for it that I issued 2 days before. When the pulse happened, I warned this area right here for a big tornado to form and hit the center of the pulse. And it did. And there were storm chasers that were waiting there for the tornado to form to see if it would happen. So it wasn't like a wide area that I issued a warning for, guys. It was a town specific. I'm like, a tornado's going to hit here. And people are like, oh, there's no way you can know where a tornado's going to hit. I'm like, yeah, naturally, of course. But when you're pulsing the storm and there's a giant target. But that same day, the radar station at Birmingham got hit. And it was on CNN. It was the biggest tornado to hit in Alabama in years. It was 2011 when this happened. And the tornado formed, went through South Birmingham, went right to the center of the pulse over at Childersburg and Sylacauga. Where did the pulse come from? A mobile radar station. Mobile. All right, now let's recap. Big earthquake down there on the south side, southwest side of the North American plate as a whole. We have a 5 up off the coast that struck first. The whole west coast is moving now. And out here at the California-Nevada border is where I had my warning going. And we get a moderate earthquake, a 3 and a little outbreak, a swarm. Now I want you to see, in the last 24 hours, do you notice anything about the earthquakes in California and Nevada? We're looking at everything 2.3 and greater. Here's 2.0 and greater, right there. Do you notice anything about the quakes in California and Nevada? Well, clearly they're cutting the area in half, aren't they? There's a line of earthquakes that goes from the coast out into central Nevada and even over into Utah to the east. And look where it points. It's going right into the back end of my arrow. Now, that's not a chance or a coincidence. What's along the coast? The San Andreas Fault. Let's go over to the USGS map and show you. Here is the plate boundary for North America, the red line, the San Andreas Fault. And the earthquakes are going right across, and notice the USGS doesn't have jack squat on their map. They should have this, but they don't have anything. Meanwhile, the earthquakes are going right over and over to edge of the craton, to the rusty brownish color, trying to make their way across the purple part, the deformed edge of the craton. Now let's get back to the quakes over the last 48 hours. Going from the red line on the coast, we go across the valley to here. So what's there? Why are we jumping across the valley over to La Grande, California? There's something there. Something I found myself. A big discovery. You want to see it? We're jumping off the San Andreas, and we're going over to this thing. Take a look. I've shown this so many times. I'm going to turn off all of our borders and labels and everything so you can get a good view of it. This is a giant bulging laccolith that's formed from magma intruding underneath and forming a bulge, a circular bulge, here in the east part of the valley of California, Sacramento Valley, quite literally. Here, take a look at the, see, there's Modesto and so forth. So, huge magma bulge here down below. But guess what happens around this thing? Earthquakes break around the outside edge of this thing, and fires break around the outside edge of this thing over and over and over again. That's what drew my eye to it, to see the bulge, to see the circular bulge there. Now, to seal the deal that it's a bulging laccolith, here, this is the known supervolcano at the California-Nevada border, Long Valley Caldera, with 1,000 cubic kilometers of melt measured down below, classifying it as a supervolcano. Now you'll see, this bulging laccolith is about the same size as the supervolcano caldera. They're parallel to each other across the mountain range. Now there's another one, but one that's collapsed. It's further down to the south. It's right here. This one bulged at some point in the past, just like the one I showed you up to the north, but it has since collapsed, or the magma hardened off, or it retreated out, and we get fires and earthquakes that break around this thing as well. There's a third one, and this one is right here. It's literally made up of volcanoes itself. Golden Trout Creek, Red Hill, two of the same size and shape volcanoes side by side. Then we get over here. We have Templeton Mountain and Monash Mountain, two of the same volcanoes. Then we have Brown Mountain standing out as the oddball. We go over here on this side, and we have Soda Butte. And in the middle, going down to the south, we have this, a bulging laccolith. My viewers found this. I didn't even notice it when I was showing everybody. I'm like, hey, guys, we're 3/4 of a caldera there, but we're missing the bottom side. My viewers go, what's that circular shape? I go, oh, man, look, good eye, guys. A bulging laccolith set into the plate itself. Now, interestingly enough, about this location, if I turn this ever so slightly, this makes a perfect diamond shape. And now that I know what to look for when it comes to man-made structures from a long time ago, now I know to measure and see what they are. So in this case, we have another 9-mile long structure by 8.5 by 8.5 by 8.5 by 8.5. When I see something like that and it's surrounded with volcanoes, I'm now starting to get a little suspicious when I see huge mining operations next to it on the side. So we have a line of earthquakes that goes right over across, going from the San Andreas, reaching over to the bulging laccolith, then going over across over to the California-Nevada border, which I haven't even looked up yet. And then we go out here into the middle of Nevada. So what's out here at Rachel, Nevada? Anybody ever hear of Rachel, Nevada before? You may have heard of it like on Discovery Channel or the History Channel or Sci-Fi Channel even. Maybe you may have heard about Rachel, Nevada. You know why? There's a famous place here, right next to here, you may have heard of before. Have you guys ever heard of Area 51? Now, I'm not going to get into any kind of weird conspiracy talk or anything like that, but everybody knows that if you want to come out and see Area 51, you're going to be coming into Rachel first and then going out to Area 51. Now, Area 51 is all the way down here, right here. But you come in up there, up to Rachel, Nevada, for some reason. Again, everybody goes to Rachel, Nevada. They come in and come down to the south. And we're outside of Rachel. They're triangulating from Rachel, Rochelle, whatever, Rachel. Now, Area 51, like I said, is right here. And all of our nuke test sites are right here. All these craters in the ground. And going over to the west, we even have more the Google Earth community has taken a good amount of time to put place marks on all the nuke test sites and look each one up and put detailed information on each one. So Area 20 is what they call this one, right? Okay, now you understand. So we're right next to it, a nuke test site. But is there anything else there? I just want to know. So I'm going to zoom in really close and just see if there's anything else here nearby other than nuke test sites that could get my attention. Well, this might get anybody's attention. See what we're looking at here? These are the very famous lunar craters. And they go on for miles. You can see our lava flows that come out the sides of these ancient buttes. These buttes are older, and clearly the lava flow is younger, and it broke out on the side there, just one example. And it goes on and on and on for miles down to the south. This is one of our blast craters. It's only about 500 feet deep. That's not from meteorites, guys. That's from Mother Nature pushing up from down below. So I would probably lean towards the huge volcanic field right next to it as opposed to the nuke test sites right down here. Again, these are all our most recent nuke test sites where we did megaton testing with the French and UK in the 1980s and 1990s right there. So it's really close, but I'm going to lean towards the volcanoes, even though. So we're going off the San Andreas. We're jumping over to the Lacolith. We're going through the supervolcano, which I don't even need to show you. Again, it's a giant caldera there at the California-Nevada border. And we go all the way over here to our more unknown lunar craters. What do all those locations have in common going across the valley, across the supervolcano over to lunar craters? They're all volcanic. It doesn't mean an eruption. It means that there's a path of least resistance that's going. Now, didn't I issue a warning right here? I sure did. Let me show you where I issued the warning. Ubehebe Craters is the name of the location. And that is right here. Here are the Ubehebe Craters. Ubehebe Craters, however you say it. And here's the supervolcano I just showed you. And the line of earthquakes is coming right across and going right through here, out to the east. So I warned right here, right at the center. Then we get a big break 230 miles outside of my warned area, down to the south, just south of the border. And then we have a line of quakes that goes across in the middle of my warned area. 5.2 on the north side, 4 coming in on the north. Idaho's getting ready to move. We're going to swarm out in Yellowstone. We're getting ready to start seeing it in the United States. Halfway point between these two earthquakes is now going to get hit. Between the 5 and the 6. Where does that overlap? Oh, wow. Hey, new warning, got to issue. Bay Area. Check it out. Look where our rings overlap. South Bay Area, going on the creeping section of the San Andreas, as far north as Napa Valley, as far east as Long Valley, and as far west as the coast. You see it. The magnitude will be between these two. So it'll be between 5.2 and 6.2. And the halfway point between those two comes in at like 5.8 or something. Somewhere near that. 5.7 to 5.8. And time frame on this should be the next 7 days. So let the people know in California now. And I'll just go ahead and I'm saving this as a video. We're going to put it out over on YouTube. Get the warning out now to the people in the Bay Area. Anytime we get above 5.0 in the area, it's enough to knock things off shelves. So if you got a museum and you've got a bunch of breakable stuff, you might want to take it down. Just for the few days. It's not like you have to do it for weeks. Just for this week. Okay? Now, I also have a warning going for rare earthquake activity. 4.9 due in Oklahoma. Also 4.9 due on the New Madrid seismic zone. It'll be the largest earthquake on the New Madrid in decades, if I'm correct on this. Should strike down south at the Missouri border. Now, there's something I have to show everyone, and I told you I was going to show you. And I told you I was going to, of course, talk about this, but I have to bring your attention to this at the center of the screen. Now, this is the New Madrid seismic zone, just for orientation. What I'm going to do is turn on our borders and labels. Here's Missouri. Here is St. Louis. Let me zoom in and show you St. Louis. Here's the city of St. Louis. Here's Columbia, Missouri, halfway across Missouri. Down here to the south, all the way down here, we have like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Little Rock, Arkansas. And over here, we have Tulsa, Oklahoma. Again, just so you understand what we're looking at here. So Tulsa, Oklahoma here, Little Rock, Arkansas down here. St. Louis up here. The town of New Madrid right here. And Columbia right here. Now I'm going to turn off all my borders and labels. Those cities I just showed you. Here, here. New Madrid is down here. I didn't show it to you, but it's right down here. Little Rock, you can see it. And Tulsa right out there. Now I'm going to turn this so it's pointing north. Well, pointing up. What am I pointing at? What am I showing you? Okay. So, the city. Columbia, St. Louis, New Madrid, Little Rock, Tulsa. Now, I already measured this. I'm not going to spend too much time measuring it for you to prove to you that it's symmetrical. You're welcome to come over and do it yourself, but you're going to find out it's about 180 to 190 miles from tip to tip on both sides. And again, I already measured this. You guys, it's not up for debate. We did this live. Now, we also go 180 down to the south. We're symmetrical, okay? Now, at the back end, it's 120. This is the classic star fort shape. Now, we got a problem with this. This is the New Madrid seismic zone right here on the side. Now, I'm going to zoom in and show you something. What I just showed you, right? Okay. Now, we're going to zoom in and show it to you again. A smaller version of it, but the same thing. These are mountain ranges now. These are not trees, deforestation. This is mountain range. And what I'm going to measure is the same thing. It's the classic star fort. This is now, New Madrid is about 5 miles over to the west. So this is 9 by 5. 9 miles, 9 miles, 6 miles, and 6 miles. Okay, now you might say I'm tripping. You say, oh, Dutch, you're just seeing things. No, because there's a third one. Now, again, I just showed you the small one. New Madrid is right here. This is the star fort shape. Now we're going to zoom in, and there's another one. It's a little well hidden, but you'll be able to see it when I measure it. This is not Paradelia either. This is mountain ranges. So we're going to measure from back here to up here, and we're at 120, 130 miles. We're going back down to here to St. Louis Center. It's 130 miles. Then you're bringing it back down here to Columbia, or I'm sorry, down to Cape Girardeau, and you're bringing it back here over to the west to Pocahontas. Now, that's the name of the town. Guess what's right in the middle here? Fort Leonard Wood. The Army training base, the big Army training base that all the soldiers go to train for the U.S. Army. And this is built into the bigger one. Now, if we go out the center of this and we measure this over to the west, and I'm going to do this for you live. I have to do this because this is phenomenal. This points somewhere. Now, I'm just going to draw it all the way out. We're going through the center. See how we're going on the back end and we're going through the center? Look where it takes us. It takes us to this. Now, at first I thought this was undersea bathymetric errors of some kind, maybe. But if you move your mouse around on Google Earth, it tells you your elevation. And I'm going to do that for you here. So we're at negative 4,000 feet down below sea level. Now, this thing here goes 4,200 and back down to 3,900. This is a mound. This is actually measured. Now, we go across here, and it's actually depression. We go down 3,900 feet, we come back up. It goes down about 200 feet. This is not dredging. This is, well, here, I'll show you how long it is. It's insanely long. There's no way we had ships out here dredging 50 miles of 200 feet down 5,000 feet below sea level. Now, I went and looked this up, and apparently the mainstream media weighed in and tried to say it was a UFO thing or something. And they tried to basically pigeonhole it away as UFO. Now, wait just a second, because I just drew this line through this star fort, which I didn't even believe in up until the last few years, that I didn't even believe they existed. It's 1,600 miles out through the center of it, and it brings us right into next to this thing. And I mean right next to it. And now it looks like it goes into the Continental Cross. This is 5,000 feet down. Now, I showed you the military base inside of this. Again, we zoom in one more time. We have our classic star fort shape here, and Fort Leonard Wood is in the middle. Now, and the cities are built on all pinnacle sides of this thing to let you know something's there. We go out here to California and we get to the other one that I showed you before many times. This one is a 300-mile long starfort. It's 118 by 300 by 300 by 118 or 120, whatever. I'm just randomly measuring that. I'm not going to spend the time doing it. In the middle here, just like over in Missouri, look what we have. We have the big Air Force Base where we launch all our nuclear bombers from, Edwards Air Force Base. Now on the side of here, I just showed it to you, all of our nuke test sites, one more time. Over here are nuke test sites for Area 51 and all the nuke sites. Area 51 is right here, nuke test sites here. We're on the right side of the starfort shape. You can see it. Nuke test sites. Now go directly across over here and look what it is. Yucca Flats, where they store all the nuclear material for the Yucca Mountain and all that crap. We got, again, right over here. It's 29 Palms military base. Yucca Flats, the Marine bombing range is there. So Yucca Flats and nuclear radiation storage there. And then go parallel over to here, and we have the nuke test sites there. And Area 51. Now, there's another one. You can barely see it. I've showed it before. It's a giant weathered away one that goes across Nevada up here to a pinnacle tip between Reno, and it's again 300 miles long. I will measure it out for you again. And I've showed this to you guys many times before, but I'm going to show it to you again now. Comes up to a pinnacle tip into our crater that I found. Now look what's here. Hawthorne Military Base and bunkers. Massive military for U.S. Army, putting all their storage, including nuclear materials, there at the pinnacle tip of that one. So now we've got the Air Force Base in the pinnacle tip of this one. We've got the Army storage base in the middle of this one. The one I already showed you over in Missouri is Fort Leonard Wood in the pinnacle tip. Each one of these is 300 miles long. What about this one? Wait till you see this. This is going to blow your freaking mind. This one goes up to Bend, Oregon, and it's 300 miles long as well, and it comes back down to the giant crater at Wallowa Whitman Forest. Let me turn off our borders and labels. It goes up and back down. Guess what's in the middle of this one? Well, I'll show you. I'm not going to make you guess. What's this? It looks like a base, doesn't it? Well, not really. It's the Facebook data center in the middle of this one, at the middle pinnacle tip, instead of a military base. So Facebook data center is at the middle of this one. Hawthorne Military Base is at the middle of this one. Edwards Air Force Base is at the middle of this one. Then we got our nuke site here on this side. We got Yucca Mountain on this side. Oh, over here, guess what's on this side of this starfort? Well, I'm not going to make you guess. The Hanford Nuclear Facility. The Hanford Nuclear Facility is there, right on the side, just like all the others. That's now 5 that I've showed you, and I found more. The one here in Missouri, this one, on the back side of this, see where it says Fort Leonard Wood? See where it says Festus? See where it says Sullivan? On the right side, the back right side, is our Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project and the nuclear burial site. And that is right, well, make a liar out of me, right? That is right here. See where it says Defiance? Here's the U.S. Army base and big stockpile of nuclear, just like Yucca Flats. And the Manhattan Project was right in here, and I live right. This is the Manhattan Project site where they dug it all up, and as a teenager, I went and climbed in the silos. They tore it all down and put it into that big pile there. But it used to be a big series of silos that we all would go out to and party at. Anyway, I live right here. So, what did I find? I found a military base at the pinnacle tip of each one. Again, this one has Fort Leonard Wood in it. It's 100-something miles long. There's no way humans made this. This is 300 miles long, this thing, and I'll measure it for you to show you. And this matters. This really matters. We're getting earthquakes at the pinnacle tip. Earthquakes right here. And right here. New Madrid seismic zone. Let me bring it back north now that you know what to look for. The New Madrid seismic zone. Here is the town of the New Madrid that was just devastated. So we have a small fort next to it that's 9 miles wide. Then we have a 300-mile long one. And what's the deal with all these being 300 miles long? The ones I showed you out in California are 300 miles long. This one points right down to here. Whoops. This one points literally right down to here, to this undersea whatever it is, 5,000 feet down, that the mainstream media several years ago tried to say it was a mistake in undersea measurements. And now they've done new bathymetric measurements there too. Those are not old. So they've done new undersea measurements there. I've just showed you and moved my mouse over it there in the ocean in the Gulf of California. And there's something there. It's symmetrical. And this thing points to it. This thing in the Midwest points right to it. And we're getting earthquakes down below the Pinnacle Tip. Now that I've seen this, I'll never unsee it. This is not pareidolia. They built a city at the Pinnacle Tip of each side of this thing. This is huge. It's continental in size. It's getting earthquakes down below the tip. Sound familiar? That's what's happening over here in the West Pacific, down below our Pinnacle Tip of the Australian plate, quote unquote, which we are openly questioning now, down below the Pinnacle Tip of there. One final thing I would like to show you before we get out of here, and that's that the spread of earthquakes is going from the Pinnacle Tip of this and going out and around the whole Pacific plate and coming across over to the United States. This is 48 hours worth of earthquakes. You can see it. It's a stepping stone path of quakes. Now the real question is, how much of this is natural versus how much of this is related to these giant structures that are built into the plate somehow from a long time ago. Built into the plate. I stand by it. You can't have a natural shape like that. Not like that. Not with the military bases in the middle of each one. The military would certainly have to know about this at this point. When I just show you 6 different examples plus the Facebook data center at the middle of the Pinnacle Tip of each one of these giant starfort structures that are 300 miles long, getting earthquakes down below the Pinnacle Tip of each one, including up in Bend, Oregon, including over at Hawthorne, including down at the California Pinnacle Tip that goes right into the San Andreas. You cannot overlook that each one of the Pinnacle Tips of these is getting hit with significant earthquake activity. I can't believe it that other people missed it, but figures I'd find it. Look at our earthquake activity here, right at the Pinnacle Tip of it, backside of it too. And do you think it's any coincidence that the town of New Madrid is right on the back left side of the starfort structure in the Midwest United States, where the biggest earthquake in the history of the United States took place? It can't be coincidence. And the military bases now certainly rule out pareidolia or coincidence. Somebody in the military has to know. And I'm putting this in a video. I stand by it. You'd have to tell me it's chance that all those military bases are in the Pinnacle Tip of each one of those giant starfort shapes and the Facebook data center. And I have more examples that I could go into, but I don't want to keep going. This is going on for way too long. I have examples up in Alaska. I have examples of military bases in the Pinnacle Tips of at least 10 more that I've found in the past few days. So somebody somewhere knows something. Hundreds of mile-long structures, military bases built in the middle of them. So much for cannons. We're told starforts were made by the French and the Spanish to hold cannons. Not unless the cannons are the size of Massachusetts. Isn't that phenomenal? If you're watching here now, whether you're on YouTube or on Twitch, I'm going to play this back on YouTube in just a few. What do you think? Press 1 if you're somewhat intrigued by what I'm finding with the military bases in the middle of each one of these starfort shapes that people told me I was just pareidoliaing, just seeing, they told me. They said it was just a shape that I was seeing because I wanted to. Well, now what do you have to say about the military bases in each middle? Are they seeing something too? So please press 1 in chat if you're intrigued and you think I should look into it more. Press 0 if you're not. You think it's just giant chance. You think it's all chance. If you believe in chance like that, I bet you played Powerball a couple weeks ago, didn't you? Didn't you? 4:33 a.m. Central Time. Time for me to save this as a video. If you would like to know the areas where we have warnings going, I have a forecast out from yesterday. It's pretty much a short video. It's about 30 minutes long. You can fast forward through it to find your part of the planet that I'm talking about for the forecast. It would take me 30 minutes to go over the whole forecast and tell you all the warned areas again. So go watch that video again. It's labeled Earthquake Forecast from the 22nd, from yesterday. It stands for the next 7 days. We're really going through it right now. Italy is due. West coast of the United States is going to get hit again, where the rings overlap, as I told you in this video. And with what I'm finding with these giant star forts, and star fort, F-O-R-T, in case you can't understand what I'm saying, star fort, we're told originally were bastions built by the French and the Spanish. Yeah. Well, these are hundreds of miles long and made out of mountain ranges. So somebody had the ability to sculpt or shape somehow the landscape a long time ago. Advanced technology somehow. That's the only way it could be done. Those are not natural, quote-unquote, shapes. Those are man-made shapes. And the military bases in the pinnacle tip of each one lets us know someone in the military knows. Why would they build the Facebook data center in the middle of one? What if there's free power? What if those giant star fort shapes are generating a huge amount of free power? And the military bases and Facebook are wise to it, and they're basically getting free power. What if there's some other reason they need to build in? I'll give you one more example. And this one is unmistakable if you want to see it. Do you want to see one more example before I go? I'm still recording. I will show you one more example. This one's here in St. Louis that I just found. St. Louis itself, St. Louis City, Star Fort. You ready? The government's aware. I'm 100% positive the government's aware of this. Let me show you. So here in St. Louis, I made a post actually over on my community page of a map that I found from 1796, a French map from 1796. And let me get it up here on the screen here for you to see. If it's even still up. It might have been flagged down by good old Google. There it is. Okay, it hasn't been flagged down. Here's the map. And again, all I want to draw your attention to is up here in north. North is pointing to the right. Let me make sure you can see this. So north is pointing to the right. And on the north side of St. Louis, let me make this bigger. On the north side of St. Louis, they have a giant star fort, supposedly. But it's not a fort. There's a river flowing out of it. And it's going down to, off the plateau, and coming down to, this is 3 miles long. And the structure itself is about a mile wide, or a mile long. Here's the key in the upper corner, this 3-mile key. So, looking at it, it's in North St. Louis. Downtown St. Louis is here. So I decided to overlay this on a map at a 3-mile distance with the key up there. And guess what's there? This. See this big dirt splotch there? The government is digging this out right now to build something. The giant Geospatial Agency. Now I'm going to zoom in and show you what's really here. You can see it in the streets still. Do you see it? Here, let me show it. Let me trace the streets out for you in case you don't. We're going up here to the pinnacle tip of this. And we're coming back down here and it goes right down to the river. It's the same distance. Oh, I'll be. And then it comes back down here, follow the streets, comes back through the highway. Do you see it? They've done the streets this way to mimic the old Star Fort. Now, to seal the deal that they're doing something here in the middle of this, up here at the north side are the old water towers for St. Louis. Do you see it now? Here, let me trace it out for you. I got to center it perfectly. There we go. Now that it's centered perfectly, you should be able to see it. Again, you have to turn it north, where the point is pointing north. Then you can see it. This is downtown St. Louis. And it's perfectly proportional. This is the Geospatial Agency being built in the middle of the old Star Fort. And the Star Fort is, look how many miles long it is. 2 miles long. We're like one of the biggest structures on the planet it would be. If you know what I mean, literally think about a fort 2 miles long, right? Now, right, like I said, right up here at the pinnacle tip of it is our old St. Louis water tower. And this is the worst part of St. Louis economics-wise. It's literally been abandoned. But look at our water tower. Hashtag Tartaria. And this is, of course, the water tower is really where the water used to flow from. And to let us know that the government is aware, they built projects here, low-income projects with an X marks the spot pretty much right in the middle, and they built a school right out in the front that's been abandoned. Come and buy the school, guys. It's for sale. Maybe I'll go buy it. Should I do a fundraiser and buy this school and open up the Dutch Sint School for Geophysics in the hood, like up in North St. Louis, and just try to look at it? The whole place has been abandoned up here. Anyway, they got the school at the pinnacle tip of it, which has been abandoned. They're building the Geospatial Agency in the middle of it. It's miles and miles and miles long and can't be a fort built by the French. And it's another example of the government digging into the center of a star fort to build a huge facility. I'm just going to say it. They're digging in to get something else or get access to it. It's unmistakable. That's now, how many examples have I shown you? I've shown you now 7 or 8 examples just in this update. So certainly people at the government, and that's the Geospatial Agency, they're the ones that do the mapping of the topography of Earth. Unbelievable. All the LiDAR measurements, all the everything. Yeah, they're building their headquarters there. I can't believe I stumbled into this. I stand by everything I found. I found giant man-made structures 300 miles long that the military has built a damn base in the middle of each one. Or the government has. Or in one case, Facebook. Facebook, guys. The Facebook data center. The data center for Facebook in the middle pinnacle tip of the one at Bend, Oregon. You'd have to tell me that's chance, and I'm just going to laugh at you. I don't believe in chance like that. Not 7 or 8 times in a row. I wasn't expecting to find these things. I found the shapes first. And guess how I found the shapes? The earthquakes. The earthquakes hitting below them. So, earthquakes drew my eye to it. See the shape. Then I find out there's a military base in the middle of each one. Dude, okay. We got something weird going on. I always told you guys, I will bring you all the truth, no matter what I find, even if it completely conflicts with what I believe personally, or if it goes with what I believe or whatever. I will bring it to you and show it to you. I'm not fabricating any of this, and I wasn't wrong. It turns out they really are giant structures. I can't believe it. I was hoping it would be pareidolia of some kind. Pareidolia, however you say it. Seeing faces or shapes and rocks, that kind of stuff. Faces in clouds. But no, there has to be a damn military base in the middle of each one. Well, we got ourselves a real problem now, guys. It's proof of an ancient civilization that could shape and sculpt continents with mountain ranges in the shapes of geometric formations that are not natural. So how do they do it, right? I would think it would be cymatics. If you don't know what cymatics are, you're going to have to go look it up. Cymatics, cymatics. Go look it up. You will see it. And then you'll see it takes a man-made source of radio wave energy and a computer control of some kind, or precise control, to generate those combinations of sine wave, triangle wave, or sawtooth wave, and square wave. So combining all 3 waves will give you that star fort shape. But to combine them, you need a technological source to do it. It doesn't happen naturally. And those shapes will appear on an oscilloscope. Crazy. Crazy time. I cannot believe I'm the one that gets to find this stuff. Of all the people. Now, there's other people doing research, but, to find the continental thing, the military base thing. This is confirmation. Anybody who wanted confirmation, you got it. You got it. Military base in the middle of each one. And a Facebook data center. I'll be back with more that I find. You can tell I get excited about big discoveries like this. Because it confronts the whole world of geophysics, not just a little part. It confronts the earthquake aspect. Why are we getting earthquakes down below the pinnacle tips of these things? Who made them? What's powering them? Are they still active? Are they talking to each other? Are they sending out some kind of very low frequency? There's too many questions get opened up from this, but I'm excited by the questions. I want to find out the answers to them. Why is the military base in the middle of each one? What are they trying to hide and protect? Trying to stop people from going down in? Trying to hide the ancient civilization? Why? Does it prove God? Or does it disprove God? What do we got? Somebody knows. I need to find out. I'm going to keep digging I'm going to keep bringing it to you publicly, but no pun intended, I'm going to keep digging. They're going to keep digging and building their bases in the middle of each one to get into whatever is there. It's clearly obvious you're going to dig a big military base or a geospatial agency or a Facebook headquarters at a spot where you want to get down into the ground because it's a giant pinnacle tip of a huge ancient structure that you're curious on. It's amazing. It's amazing. Amazing times we're living in. Time to save this as a video and get it out over on YouTube. 47 minutes long, half of which where I'm talking about this. I told you I was going to do it. Here it is.